Welcome coders, welcome to Coding Casuals, and today's topic is to create a URL shortener. What is a URL shortener? So what happens is if you have a big long address of a website or a URL which you want to shorten up, you go onto a website, feed the address which is long and then get an output in a very short address and then you can circulate that address. So how it works? So basically what happens is the moment you feed that long address to the website, it stores that information and then it gives you a URL through which you can go back to the same site and then that site can redirect to the original site. How it actually works is I'll show you with a very basic example. So suppose website 1 is the website where you put the long URL and then you get a short URL reproduced, and then the moment you put that address onto the browser of yours, could be Chrome, could be Internet Explorer, anything, basically what happens is you go back to the original site on which you try to shorten up the URL, and that site redirects you to the different site altogether, the one basically you had targeted for. So how you can do this? It can be done in two ways. The first one is you just create a service which shorten ups the URL and does nothing after that, or you can make a short website using Python and Flask and then shorten the URL up, store that URL, and then have a redirect as well. So in order to create that website, what you can do is if you have Anaconda bundle installed on your system, it'll be great because then you don't have to install anything. But if you don't have that build, what you need to do is you need to install Flask plus SQLite 3. So I have both of them on my system as I have Anaconda build. If you want to download Anaconda, there is a description. You can open up the description panel and follow the instructions. So I am on my Visual Studio Code, which is basically the free IDE that I use, and I have a file created called urlshortener.py, and I'll start using the import commands to make the application. So first of all, what we need to do is we need to import Flask. So what we'll do is from Flask we'll import Flask, and we have to import requests as well, just because we would be taking some data through user forms, and plus we need to have redirect as well for redirecting user to the different website. We'll import SQLite to store the data and to import the data from as well. We'll import time so that we can use that milliseconds into our URL short address. And now what we need to do is we need to define our application. So for this is a basic application and an example. So what we'll do is app will be Flask, and what would be the name? We don't have any name for it. We'll make it without any model. We'll start app equals to this, and then we'll do if underscore underscore name equals to main. So basically what we are trying to do here is we are just telling the interpreter that if this is not an import module, if nothing is get imported here, you just start things from the starting. So what we are doing here is if nothing comes as a module, please start the application. Alright, so now we'll start filling in the details. So what we'll do here is we will make app route. App route means the moment you open up a website, or the moment you open up the address, what would happen. So for this, what we'll do is our app dot route bracket open and bracket close and slash. That means the moment you just open up the website, which is the naked address, it'll start doing the stuff which is just below this. So what we'll do is we'll define a function, and that will be welcome, and we'll close the bracket up. There'll be no parameter in the same, and then what we'll do is we will try to write some HTML. So by putting three quotes here is just that it'll be a multi-line stuff. That is the only reason I'm doing this, or else you can create a template as well, but I don't want to get into that template complexity yet. So what I'll do is I'll define a form here which will have a method of post. So I'm already in double quotes, so I'll be putting a single quote here, and I'll close this, plus then I'll be having an input which will be a type of, sorry, which will have a name of text, and then I'll be closing it, and plus I'll be having another input which will be the type of submit, just because I need a submit button as well. So I'll do a submit button, and then I'll close this as well. So what I have in front of me is a basic HTML form. I'll close the form, I have the stuff, and I've stored the HTML in the variable called a. So now what we have to do is we have to return this. So what's gonna happen here is the moment you open up a website, this specific thing will be returned, which is our user form. So now we have a form with us. What we have to do next is we have to get the input from this form. What we can do here is, again, we can initiate a app route which is consume data. Now what we'll do is we already have the same, so we'll be putting the same again, because we want the website to land on the same address the moment it generates the shortened up address. So but we would be consuming a different method altogether. So methods would be what? It'll be a post method. So we would be using the post method, and then we'll be declaring a function which will work upon this. So process URL, and then we can use it as a normal function, which we basically do on Python only. So in order to store that URL which gets generated, we have to first make the processing done as well, which is basically shortening up the address as well. So before that, I would really recommend all of you to either initiate the SQL connection on which you would be storing the data, or get the data from the user form. So let's get the data from the user form, and we can say request dot form. What we are trying to consume is text, and we have the data which will be here in text box stored in text, and then we can have a control S so that we can get rid of that red mark. And then what we can do is we can initiate the SQL connection by writing SQL connection equals to SQL Lite dot connect, and I already have a database on my desktop which is connect data, which is a database file. I made it through the DB browser. I can have the address from here copied, and then I can go back, I can paste it up, and then get the name of the file. I generally don't remember stuff, so that is the reason I would do a copy paste. And just because it's on my desktop and I don't want to declare the same as a raw address, I'll put double quotes. Now I'm connected to the connect data DB, and now what I'll do is I'll initiate a cursor. So through how we can do this, we can simply write cursor equals to SQL connection dot cursor. Now we have a cursor in here. So what we are basically trying to do is we would be executing some queries so that we can store the data, plus we can get the data as well. And remember, we are not doing this in the start because we don't want to change the IDs of the sub processes, so that is the reason I'm doing it in the same process, I mean the same function. So now what we need to do is we need to shorten up the URL. What we can do is short URL is something that we can have as a variable, and then we can do a very simple thing. We can write we can write we suppose we want to short it up by the last five letters or last one letter. Totally depends upon you how you want to do it. Is for the example, what I'm doing is I'll be taking the text and then using the last word, and then plus I'll be using last letter basically, and then what I'll be doing is I'll be using the time module, and just because we cannot concatenate integer and string, so we have to convert it into string. And in string, what we'll do is we'll initiate round and we'll say time dot time, and we'll open up the bracket and then we'll close it up. So through this we'll have milliseconds stored, I mean the time stored in a round format. Basically it'll give us a long number, not that much long, but 4 or 5 characters of time. So as I was telling you, what we have done is we have created a very small framework to shorten up the URL which gets inputted through the input box which we have made here. So we would be adding another pattern. I mean we would be adding another variable here. It could be basically what will it will be would be the address of the website which will get generated through Flask. So I'm not doing it right now just because I want that address to be pushed on my screen so that I can add it up here. Furthermore, what we can do is we can create a try statement to remove www in the text. So basically these would be the web addresses that we would be shortening up, so it is so evident that we will get www in the same, and we would like to replace it so that we can have the address, I mean the name of the website and the further details, which is the long length of the URL. We would be putting that www by our end only, is just because the redirect module would work with https added by us on the redirect time only. Then it would only shift the website address to different domain, or else what it will do is it will redirect within the same address only, which is something that we won't need and we don't want. So what we do is we'll do a text and we'll replace stuff here. We would replace, as I said, www dot, and we would like to replace it with nothing. And if there is no www, which is in the case of https and some domains, what we will do is we would want text to be text only. And now what we have to do is we have to store that information. So first we can write some SQL. We can simply initiate the execute command as well through cursor, and this is just a short project, so we can do the same by writing cursor dot execute and then writing this SQL, and it will be insert into, I have the database already made, plus I know the name of the table as well. So in my table I have two columns. The first one is the original address and the second one is the short address. So the table of the table that I'll be using will be URL short, and then I'll be opening up the bracket. The first column name is original URL, and the second column name is converted URL, and the proper method of writing it. And when I say proper, is the first letter of the column name is uppercase, and then we can write URL here. And now we can close the bracket. Basically what we have done is now we have told we have told the SQL command, or what we are writing here, to put data in original URL and converted URL column only. And what would be the values? Values we have to be very careful when it comes to spellings, so values should be here, and then we would be doing simple formatting trick. We would be putting a variable here, plus we would be putting the variable here. All of the data that we would be putting would be in text format, so that is the reason there are two single quotes. I'll be formatting the same, and then I'll be placing a variable here called O, which is original URL, and then processed URL. So so what we'll do is we'll close the bracket here, and O will become our text, which is this one, and then I want the removal of the first 8 letters or characters. It could, and probably most of the time what happens is, so all the https colon slash slash is something that I'm trying to remove here, and then putting, so all of these add up to 8 characters, and I'll do so leaving the first 8 characters behind, and then move forward and just store that information. Then P, what I'll do is I'll put short, and short will be put here, plus I'll be closing down the brackets. So the whole query of SQL is done, and now what I'll do is I'll commit the SQL database. So why I'm committing it is just because I want this information to be stored. I'll copy the same, put it over here, and then do commit, and thus we have the stored information here. And now what we have to do is we have to close this connection as well. So I'm closing this connection, and then we are okay with processing the URL. So now what's gonna happen is we have to make sure that we, if a person again throw back us the same URL, our website redirects him to the original one. So what I'll do is I'll open up an app route and tell it to, so as to do what here is to check whether the person has put the converted URL or not. So through by which what we can do is we can open up a bracket here, and of course it should be in double quotes. It says short and bracket close, and I'll tell you why short is here. Just before that, I'll process, or I'll initiate a function called open site, bracket open, bracket close, and then just give me 1 second to let you know why this address exists here. So what we have done is we have created a short text, and that is the short URL here, and it should be short URL instead of short, so that it processes the same. So in short URL what happens is we would have an address before this, plus we would have a chunk of what the name full address had, and then we would have our generated time in seconds, not in seconds, basically it's a converted form of time. So if we receive that, with the site will detect whether we have received it or not, because our short URL would provide the address in such a manner that it will redirect to this and then certain things after this. So the moment we have this as a route, what we'll do is we will first get the details out of that URL. So details equals to request dot argument dot get, and then we'll open up the bracket, and then what we have to do is we have to consume it through URL, and then our default parameter would be 1, and type would be string. And now we'll close this thing up, and then we'll initiate the SQL connection again. You can copy the same here and then paste it here, and then again you have to initiate a cursor. You can copy the same from here and then paste it here. And now what we have to do is we have to write a query. So what we can do is cursor dot execute, and then bracket open, and then write select query to basically check the short URL in our database. so that we would know whether it was generated from our end or not, and if it did, we can check the original address to the same. So what we can do is we can select original URL, and then we can say select original URL from URL short. This is the name of the table, and what we can do is we can say where what, where the converted URL is this. Again, we'll be doing a format here and then putting a variable here, or we can write D as well, and format bracket, we'll open up the bracket and we will state that D is details, right? And what we'll do is we will go back and now we have to make changes here as well, there's no doubt about it, and it's just because we need to know that address as well. So the moment we'll have that address, which will start from 127 dot something something something, and then we'll put that information just here and concatenate the stuff, and then we'll get the URL which was processed. So we'll say found URL equals to what, equals to cursor dot fetch all, and bracket open bracket close. We say redirect URL equals to found URL, and what we'll do here is found URL bracket open bracket close, which is the main brackets, and we'll fetch the first item, and just because the first item will give you a tuple, we would need the first item from the same as well, so we will have the right address. And now we have the address that we want to hop onto. What we'll do here is we'll convert the string and we will write an address here, and that will be HTTPS, and we have to make this thing go into string. This is now in string, and now just because we have removed www as well in the starting for few of them sites, we will concatenate the same with our result, and that is redirect URL, which is this one. And now what we'll do is we will put redirect, we have to return the same, so we will return redirect, or instead of this what we can do is we can simply do a copy paste here and then return the same. So as I said that we need to know that address as well, which will be produced by Flask. Just give me 1 minute and I'll tell you about that. So now we have that address which is produced by Flask, and that is this. So what you need to do is on this area, if you would go back to the video, you would see that this was missing. You have to add this before these, and you have to add this short address as well. And this is needed just because you would need to know whether this specific address is something that the user has put, and then only you can process the same. So I'll show you the same in action. What you need to do is you need to run the application and open up a website, and here it is. What you need to do is you can simply press control and you'll have this website, and I have a different blog open as well, and this has a very big URL. What you can do is you can paste the same here, and now you'll have a short one, which is a very short URL. You can copy the same, and then in order to check it, you can push it here and it'll open up the website. So what we have done is we have generated the address from the site which we produced through Flask, and the address which was generated through this website was given to us, and then we Basically this is shortened up, and if you would see the database, it looks like this. So this is something that user inputs, and we redirect the same to this one. And basically this is how you make a URL shortener. If you like the video, please press the like button, and if you like the channel, please subscribe to it. Thank you.